All right. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Elizabeth. All right. We're really happy to have everyone on this call. And thank you for making our time out of your busy schedule to join the call. I suspect it's a topic that everyone is looking forward to. I would start out with some, quick introductions on my end, and obviously tell you a little bit about Talstack. And then we'll talk about the webinar, and then I would go ahead and introduce our webinar guest. She's going to spend about 30 minutes just working through the slide she has, and then we'll make sure we have about another 30 minutes to take questions, because I suspect that there's going to be a lot of questions for her after a session. Just a few house rules. I guess for as the session starts, if we have questions in between, we can pop into the chat and just like type in our questions there. The moment we have the Q&A as well, we would give people the opportunity to unmute their mic and just like ask questions directly to our guest. But in case you have a burning question and you don't want to forget it, just feel free to type it into the chat box. We'll have someone just constantly looking at that chat box to ensure that we capture all the questions ahead of time. My name is Kayode. I'm one of the founders at Talstack, and we have a team supporting the work we do at Talstack. Again, high level overview of what Talstack is that we're a people management platform that offers companies the tooling systems you need to be able to get the most impact from your people. So every time you think about, I need to drive performance improvement at work, I need to train my people, I need clarity around their goals, I need to be able to tell, who's performing better, who needs improvement, who needs to be able to, or who has performance gaps that need to be closed, then Talstack is the right platform for you. Before I move ahead, just to get a keen sense of who is in the room, we can use the chat bot or the chat box and just pop in and type in, our name. So brief introduction, your name, what company you represent, and what country you're joining us from. I know on this call we have people from a few countries, and so I suspect for some people it's early afternoon, for some people it's late afternoon, for some people it might be morning. So just pop into the chat box, introduce yourself, your name, the company, and what country you're joining us from. I think it's also a great opportunity for other people on the call to know who is in the room and, perhaps be able to connect with other people within the room. So I'll just wait for that to keep happening while I keep just like talking about, just giving like a general introduction to Talstack. Currently today we're used by brands in various African countries. In Nigeria, in Kenya, a couple brands in South Africa as well. And today we serve the broader African continent. So again, just a quick recap. Today, you can leverage Talstack to do 4 things primarily. 1, you can leverage Talstack to set clear goals as an organization. So OKR, KPI, you want to be able to set goals, track goals, see how people are performing versus the goals that you've set for them, either at the quarter or at the half-year mark or at the annual mark. Talstack helps you do that in a simple and easy to use way. The second thing you can do with Talstack is you can run your regular performance review. So either that's biannual, quarterly, whatever the cadence is, either it's a 360 or it's a 180, whatever sort of performance review system you run, Talstack effectively allows you to run performance system. It's probably the most intuitive and simple to use performance system anyone would ever use, and you can take our word for it. The third thing that Talstack enables you do is enables you deploy learning and development internally. So you need to train your people, you need to improve them, you spot either gap around management, leadership, soft skill, technical skills, sales, marketing, whatever it is. Talstack has over 400 courses built specifically for the African market and taught by experts to help you close these gaps. With other tooling systems allows you, build learning parts, assign courses, upload your own internal courses. And the last tool we then provide is a tool for continuous feedback, right? So a tool that allows you to share feedback internally, capture feedback. I suspect that for most companies today, your feedback is spread across various places. So some are verbal, some are your internal communication tool, some are emails, and it's usually hard for you to be able to say, what are all the things this person has gotten feedback on over the last 3 to 6 months? We have a tool that allows you to easily capture that. And then that then factors into how you do your performance review and even how you design learning plans and learning goals for that specific individual. So that's Talstack in a nutshell. I suspect that as we proceed within the webinar, if you'd like to talk to us, there'll be a contact page for you to reach out to us. So now let's focus on why we're here today. Again, I'll just do a quick recap. For those just joining us, we have a chat box where we'd like to get to meet you. So just pop into the chat box and just like do a quick introduction. Your name, your company, and the country you're joining us from. That would be helpful. And so for the session today, the title obviously is Beyond Pay, Practical Ways for teams to reduce attrition. And I think it's a very important topic, right? Every time we speak to HR leaders, this is front and center for most of them. And I think there's obviously a number of factors leading to this, where when you think about Africa more broadly, there's been lots of immigration happening across the continent. So young people, smart people, the workforce moving out of the continent to go look for jobs, outside the continent. When you also think about, all the economic challenges that companies are also having, right? So there's a lot of economic pressure, which means that there's a limit to how much company can just spend. And when you think about that as well, HR teams need to also begin to think beyond money, because there's a level where a company would like to be able to keep some of its employees, but just doesn't have the liquid cash to be able to do that, right? So beyond pay, beyond compensation, what are some of the creative ways that HR teams are sort of like navigating this? And I think we have a very interesting guest speaker. We spent some time connecting this week and over a few weeks. And she's had experience, just implementing some very interesting strategies that I think would all be happy and obviously would all be happy to learn from during this session. But just like a quick introduction, she spent over 10 years just like in the HR space, specifically around, FMCGs, agro-processing. Currently, she oversees about a 750-person team, across a company. And as she was telling me that she has a really small HR team. And when we did the calculation, it almost felt like it was one HR person to 150 employees thereabouts. So, it's interesting seeing how with such a small team, they've been able to drive lots of improvements, within the company. Currently, I think a number that blew our mind when she told us was from an attrition rate. Now, for an industry, obviously, if you know the FMCG industry, you know that usually you have a mix of white collar workers and blue collar workers, right? For an industry that typically has very high attrition rate, they've maintained about an 8% employee attrition rate, right? As against the 20%, industry average, which I think is phenomenal. And she's going to be sharing some of those insights with us today. Like I said, we're going to spend about 30 minutes just like walking through the slides, and then we'll have another 30 minutes to just take a lot of questions, right? So thanks everyone, and join me in welcoming Monica. Monica currently is a senior HR leader at Kentaste, and she's going to be leading this session today. Thanks, Monica, for joining us, and we're really happy to have you around.
Thanks a lot. I'm really humbled to be here. Thanks for inviting me. As introduced, I'm Monica Njoroge, head of HR for a company called Kentaste Products Limited. We are in Kenya. Kentaste standing for Kenya, so K-E-N, Kenya, and then taste is just tasting, maybe food or something. So we are Kenyan taste, made in Kenya, all that. So Kentaste Products Limited. We deal with coconut-related products. So if you need a plug on coconut water, coconut oil, coconut milk and cream, coconut chips, please reach out. Yeah, so glad to be here to talk about attrition. And I usually start by saying, one, I'm not a know-it-all. I'm just going to maybe share what I do, what we do, what I've seen. But I'm also appreciative that I've had a chance to serve in the FMCG sector, agro-processing, and I would say, yes, I'm happy to share my experience. So I'll deep dive directly to the slides so that we can start. So just give me a minute or a second. Able to see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so talking about attrition, I think one of the things I've come to realize with time is the confusion between attrition and retention. It may seem obvious, but no, it isn't. So attrition is how many people we lose in the company or in any organization over a certain period of time. Could be monthly, could be biannually, could be quarterly. It's how far it's how far you want to take the data and measure it. For us, we do quarterly. So attritions could be because of resignations, could be because of retirements, could be because of death, voluntary and involuntary retirement. So attrition is attrition. So what I've seen maybe some CEOs requesting is to just know each cluster. So you can always do that. Look at resignations, cluster them into retirements, deaths, and everything else, but still have that grand total of attrition. And then retention is just the opposite of that. It's the number of people that you are able to keep over a certain period of time, which speaks more on employee engagement, employee relationships with the company, speaks more on trust and stability in the organization. So maybe to expound a little bit about what we've seen in the past. So for us, I would say attrition is very real. It's very real. It's a reality, although it's not very extreme. Like introduced, we currently have 10% of attrition in the factory. That's where we have, the processing, the office staff, and then we have around 8% for the field employees. These are people that usually handle the sourcing of raw materials, and obviously for us, it's the coconuts. So in as much as we are saying it's not that extreme, I think what we've experienced is also very real and telling. It tells more about how comfortable are employees coming to us when they want to resign. Or even exit. So I was even giving an example when we were cutting out with Kayode about an employee who's leaving and calls me and is like, Monica, can you please guide me? I want to leave, and this is the reason why I want to leave. What is the separation process? Do I have any company item? What notice period do I need to give? And for me, sometimes we do take those things lightly. But can you imagine you calling your boss and telling your boss that, you know what, I want to leave tomorrow, or please know I'm actively searching for a job. I think most of the time that relationship will turn to be very toxic after that. But maturity and good relations is when you accept that people move, and how you handle that separation matters. I've had people who've left and come back, right? So what I think for us, what we have considered as a very positive feedback is that kind of openness that speaks more to trust. And from experience, again, I would say the biggest drivers of attrition is not even about salary. Yes, salary is a part of it, but it's not the biggest player. The biggest player is, how do you feel in the morning? You as a manager, you as a HR manager, you as a HR profession, that today I'm going to work. That's what attributes to attrition. If you're really happy about it, then it means it's a good workplace. So now mirror that to the other employees. It's how they feel when they know they are going to engage with their supervisors. How does the supervisor engage with the employees? What is the physical nature of the job? Do you prepare them to experience and overcome this? Do you prepare them during the onboarding session and tell them, you know what, this is field work and this is what you can expect. Please note, you're going to be riding a motorbike from Monday to Saturday and your only relaxing day is on Sunday. What does riding a motorbike mean? It means X, Y, and Z. It's that, and even it's the predictability of the systems in the organization. What systems? For instance, I joined Kentaste and I should be able to tell when I'm going to expect a salary raise. I should be able to expect that with 1, 2, 3 levels of development, I'm going to get a promotion. If we don't share that with our employees, if we are not that open with our employees, then we can, of course, now expect early exits. And actually, the other thing that I want to highlight a lot and emphasize on is on onboarding. Onboarding, it's not just about signing papers and ensuring that, oh, when a court case comes, I know I'm safeguarded. No, it's about the employee assimilating and understanding this job means this X, Y, Z to me. If an employee says, you know what, so for instance, for us, we have to get people from Nairobi to come and work in the coast. What does that mean to this person in terms of family, in terms of pay, in terms of off days? You can imagine if I'm telling someone you're going to work from Monday to Saturday and the only day you have your off day is on Sunday, then what time do you expect them to rush back home and meet their family? Such are the conversations. So the employee needs to understand, take it all in and ask questions before you say, you are on your own, now you're working on your probation. I don't know if I'm clear on that, because it is really important that employees really understand the implications of them signing up that offer letter and contract, because most of the conflicts come afterwards, after they realize this is not what I bargained for. I wanted more. I wanted my salary to be reviewed after 6 months or so. So what I've just said is summarized in this slide that I'm sharing. Supervisors' impact and communication gaps. We need to ensure that supervisors, they're the gatekeepers in the organization. In fact, before someone comes to the HR, I would say the supervisor ought to have summarized the policy, how it is, and even like empathized with the employee in matters like even that relate to family and social life. Fatigue from nature of work and shifts. Again, that's what I said, the nature of the job, and then the onboarding gaps and limited visible growth paths. I need to know what is in it for me. It is so obvious to the employee what does the company want? It needs profits. But now from the employee perspective, what is in it for them? What is their growth path? What is their growth in terms of salary? We are talking about mental health nowadays a lot. We are talking about work-life balance. What is in it for them? And so in the next slide, I'm going to share what we've done as a company in terms of, trying to reach out and reduce the attrition rates in the organization. And it has really worked. Like I said, it's 10% and 8%, speaks very well for us. But I know and I really appreciate that we can do better and we can do more. And we are always looking at these opportunities. So for us, and let me share this, we look at the daily things that would impact a person, an employee. And I'll give an example. So I have manager X, and manager X, I decide this person, let's say he earns around maybe even 300K. And then maybe I decide this person is worth a t-shirt that says Kentaste employee, 10 years in the company. Does it really impact that employee? My obvious answer is no. But I have the same t-shirt to maybe a production worker who is very sentimental about such, because he wants to show the family, he wants to brag about it. Yet he holds the t-shirt very sentimentally. That comes to my point. Little things matter, but please also consider the value and the level of the people that you're trying to reward. So back to the ideas. One, we usually do subsidized meals. We do have a factory, and even for the field employees, they usually get an allowance every month that will subsidize the amount of money they use for meals. And in fact, we've gone a step ahead just the other day in January to the night employees have zero charged on meals and night transport. That's fully paid. So those 2 points, Very important. And then we have HR accessibility, and I'll speak more about this. Most of the time in some forums, I've thrown these points, and I'm very proud of it, that HR, we need to be available at the factory floor. We need to know the company processes. And I know not many HR people would agree with this, but it is really important. It is one of my strengths that I've really used to capitalize on. I was even joking and saying, you know what, maybe I'll give my boss some hard time to just say, Monica, I get rid of you. Just because, one, I've tried to know, what does production mean? What does maintenance mean? What does sourcing coconuts mean? I know what people experience. If someone comes and says, Monica, you know what, I don't want a Yamaha motorbike, I need a Kibo motorbike, I'll be able to relate just because I've gone to the field, I've seen the interiors of where these people go, I've sat on that motorbike, I've felt the pain, I've felt, or rather I've enjoyed the ride, whichever the case. So when this employee comes, then I'll be able to relate, and I'll be like, yeah, in as much as it doesn't make sense, I know what you're talking about, and I'll be able to support the employees. So I'm challenging all the HR professionals who are here. Try. I'm not saying you get to the technical part of it, but look at the finance team members. Look at the finance managers. They're really trying to do a course, even a certification in HR, just because they know where the strengths are. They have learned about finance. Now they want to get this other side of the profession. And you see, these people are very difficult to get rid of. So HR professionals, please, let us try to really go into operational matters, just a little bit, understand the organization, understand what happens when you want to produce a production XYZ. So HR presence, even when you're working in the factory, you will see people reaching out. And by that time, when it's like even finding someone trying to pick a coconut, just pick it up and ask a question or two. What you're doing is creating trust between the two of you. This person is going to be ready to come to you if they have a problem, an idea, an initiative. The next one is reward on targets. For us, our staff, they have their targets, like for instance, produce 2,000 coconuts per day. If you finish that within 2 hours, please go home. We are not going to hold you at the factory just because your contract says 8 hours. It's good to, if they have another hustle and they're able to meet their targets, why not? So that's what we've implemented. The other one is on flexible work hours. Flexible work hours. Our mothers, once they give birth, they usually have another 5 months post-maternity leave. So they'll come in 1 hour late. So instead of coming in at 8, they'll come in at 9. And then last hour, they are going to have an hour extra. So instead of 1 hour, they'll have 2 hours. And then at the evening, instead of leaving at 5, they're going to leave at 4. So just to support them and ensure that, the child is getting the maternal love that they should get. The other one is ESOP for managers, just the stock options for our managers. It may seem tricky, I won't lie, at the start of it, and you cannot do this alone. As the HR manager, you need a legal team to support with this. So, but it is very important because managers tend to own the company. They tend to quote unquote own every decision that they make. They know whatever, if they are approving a 10 million or a 1 million budget, how does it impact? Does it really add value to the end, which is what? The shares and dividends. The other one is on emergency time off. Again, I know it's being that we're in manufacturing, it may seem impossible, but it isn't. Everyone has a need. And I usually ask HR professionals, you yourself, and be honest, don't you have a need that requires you to rush to school? Maybe your child has been hit by something, or even the teacher just wants to meet you because of a certain situation, or you have a bank that you just want to go and sign a certain loan. We do have those. And our managers are willing, or our supervisors are willing to give us that time off, or of an hour or 2 or 3. Why not for the production workers? Why not for the operators? What we need to do to ensure that people don't exploit is to put in systems. But fairly, they need the emergency time off as well. So for us, we do have the 3 hours emergency for every emergency hour. so long as you're able to defend it. And secondly, you fill out the necessary documentation. But of course, we do monitor. We know there are people who can exploit. That's why I'm saying it's our work to put in the systems to ensure they are not, people don't take advantage. And then there's the breaks and trainings, a lot of trainings. And in fact, sometimes we do even stop production to just handle trainings. For instance, right now on Saturday, being a production day, we are not, like every Saturday, we ensure that we're having some trainings. And then the team building sessions, we have one scheduled for 11th of April. Ensure that you have those times where just people take time and sit back and say, wow, okay, I've been producing, but now I need to learn more to get the product better. I need to learn more to get my thinking right. We all agree manufacturing is a lot of work. It's very engaging physically. So even this time is for people to just, I'd say not only training, but even take some time off and just say, at least I relaxed and I'm able to handle next week as it comes. The other one is on-site HR presence. I think I mentioned about this. Daily safety talks, take time. For us, we have empowered our supervisors. That's the production, maintenance, and the QC supervisors to just take some time and talk to people. What we realized is, and don't laugh about this, although for me, it felt funny at the beginning. So they complained about, you know what, HR, these work, you know, because you use certain machines that would require a little bit of some strength to put in the coconut and remove the outer shell. We need staff rotations just because when I live here, I'm so tired. If I'm in day shift alone or night shift alone, I'm not able to take care of my family needs. And that was a very good feedback because honestly, like just sitting down and just removing the shell of a coconut, it's so engaging. For those people, if you have a chance by the way to come to Diane, you can always call me for a visit. So it's such safety talks that people are going to talk about drugs. Some say they wouldn't do without certain drugs in the morning, and you start helping these people. Subsidized products, we have our company products and staff are able to access them at a very reduced price. So no one will, you know, maybe think of stealing because of lack of. They would only do it because it is a discipline issue. Then structured onboarding. So previously we didn't have, we did have an onboarding for the particular department. However, what we've done in year 2025 and this year, and it's going to continue, is to ensuring that a staff reports, but is onboarded across the entire organization. If it's like a HR person, they'll need to go to even commercial and know what they do. They'll have to go to production, maintenance, and the rest of the departments. Next slide, team building exercises. I've just mentioned about this. So we are going to have a beach cleaning day. Every employee. After that, then we are going to have games. You can visit, I doubt if we have some pictures there, but if you want some pictures, yes, I can share. I can really share and show you the number of games that we usually do, even like carrying an egg or even running in sacks and whatnot. It's a very fun day. Overtime options. Again, just because raw materials, sometimes they're scarce. Coconuts depend on rain, they depend on some sunshine. So sometimes when there's a lot of weather change, then it means the raw materials go down. What that means is that employees are going to utilize all their leave days. Then overtime options are very important, where we translate them to days so that it adds on to their leave days. Let me know if you have a question about that. Growth journey. Again, what is in it for me? So what we've developed this year is we are having a scaled or a layered production and maintenance growth plan. So we have someone who joins at a junior position, a production worker, and then you run to machine tier 2, and then machine tier 1, which is the utmost one. And we are going to, we've already shared with the employees, like if you want to grow from a production worker to a machine tier 1, this is what you need to do. So it's very important so that people start realizing, oh, there are these growth plans and this is how I can get there. This is how the organization can support me as well. Salary reviews, are they structured? Do you know if you're told you're basing your reviews on living costs? Do they know the percentage? Do they know the months that they can expect reviews? And this is really important because they have lives. They have people who are depending on them. They have their plans. Someone wants to build a house. Someone wants to build a family. Someone wants to get married. It's a very important need that should be catered for in matters to do with reviews. Health and safety works, again. So what we've done is, I would say we are very quote unquote humble Kentaste community. What we've done is we started doing managers work from work. We don't stay very far, but it's quite a distance. So we started like working as managers home. And what we now immediately saw are employees now joining us for the walks. You can imagine how fun that is. So we leave work at 5. Those who are the production workers who want to leave, you're going to work with them home. It's fun. You bond. You even call. It's even like a marketing tool. Just you can imagine you are wearing all company T-shirts and you're just walking home. Similar to Nairobi, I know you walk a lot. Clean water access, subsidized. Again, in coast, we know it's all salty water. What we've done in our factory, we have an RO system and staff are able to get the water, access the water at very, I would say, cost efficient. The water is very subsidized. Recognition programs, yes, quarterly reviews for us. And in fact, we are just discussing now on how we can start recognizing people who've stayed with the organization for more than 10 years. I have a batch of them who've been with the organization since before I even joined the company. So we want to recognize that because it's not easy. Even staying in an organization for 5 years, I know you all agree that it is not a walk in the park. So we want now to recognize that. What we currently have is just recognizing performance and a specific KPIs that are measured on a quarterly basis. Developments, and maybe let me mention about this more. So don't even overthink. Don't talk of millions and millions. It's even like a bottle of water. Can you imagine a bottle of water just tagged Monica Njoroge, best employee of Q4 2026. A cup, a hat, or maybe, so what we've done is a cup, a water bottle, the cups, the umbrellas, all those small things, but they have impact. And then you maybe give an additional voucher to just go and buy something in the supermarkets. Development and certifications, yes. So we started for the production workers, we started a certification program last year. We've already trained 5 boiler attendants, and now they have their certificates. So I know the question will be, how do I present this to the management? Because the assumption is I train and people are going to leave. Please create a bond policy where, like you say, X amount to X amount of training amounts, you're going to stay with the organization at this time, and staff are willing and able to sign that, which means now you ensure that the company doesn't go on loss. You also you're also achieving your goals as the HR. PPE issuance, again, it may seem like a walk in the park. What are you saying? Just PPE? No, it's being intentional. It means that you are going to be called and asked about a budget because the budget is so high to a point that they're like, are you really doing the right thing? Yes, because you just don't issue PPEs for the sake of it. You're going to issue goods, quality PPEs. You're going to ensure that they mean and make sense to the employees. And this means consultation. This means you having a very active health and safety committee that is going to be reviewing these PPEs. We don't buy PPEs if the health and safety committee hasn't approved. And the health and safety committee has all these people from the department. So every department is represented in the health and safety committee. And lastly, the shift rotation. Like I said, it was requested by the production workers, just because they need to balance, between work-life balance, and of course, even their families. If I work night shift all through, and I know my wife, maybe she's working in another organization at day shift, then it wouldn't. Maybe it may not make sense. Yeah. Next slides. So additional strategies to consider, those that, some we have, some we haven't, and some we are really looking into reviewing this year, is engagement surveys. Don't just do exit interviews. I usually say exit interviews, I wouldn't care what I'm going to say. You want an exit interview you're going to get. I'm going to tell you even things that I've been dreaming of, yet they are not reality. What adds value more, based on my experience, it's the engagement surveys on those people that are in the organization, like stay interviews. Why do you stay? What do you love? Such are going to inform you on the next steps and action points. Mentorship programs. So what you can even have like buddy programs where like a new employee or a production worker wants to move to a machine operator one. They have a buddy who's going to hold their hands. They have a buddy who's going to like tell them, this is how you're going. This is more of like interpret the culture and performance that is required for that development. And then work-life balance initiatives. Most of the time, we usually just go to and say the easier one is time working from home. Yes, it is something, but even like having like a half day in and half day out for people who are really not the operators. And we have worked on this partially, but now for the C-suite team members, where they can come in the morning and maybe in the afternoon they work from home. Again, it just requires you to have a system, a system where you can hold people accountable and monitor to ensure that there is no misuse. Employee feedback. It's not even necessarily about the obvious suggestion box. It even goes far and beyond having a committee if you don't have a trade union. Like even engaging on a quarterly basis, you can, and even HR members, we really need to have meetings with our team members. Let's not just depend on what the factory and production managers are going to tell us. Do you engage intimately to know your employees, to know what they are going through? You can even be having, so what I realized with my managers, they used to have lunch in the offices. I challenged them. We are going to, all of us go to the canteen, have the meals together with the managers, with the production workers, right? It's the simple things that will that have impacts. And then career advancement resources, ensure that, yes, even if it's like half fees to the school from the employee and half from the employer, it's still an opportunity that you can leverage on. Yeah, and as we conclude, I know I was given 30 minutes, I don't know if I'm past. I would say flexibility, even in small ways, builds trust. That's what I started by saying. Employees appreciate being trusted, being treated as people, not just workers. And that's why I usually say, whatever does not suit me does not suit my employees. Whatever doesn't suit you as the HR shouldn't be okay for another employee. And we usually forget, whatever laws we create, they are going to come back to us someday. If, for instance, today I say there is forfeiture of leave, I forget next year I may be the person that leave is going to be forfeited from. So let us ensure that whatever policies we make, we first put ourselves in the same shoes before we say go. And then growth, people stay where they see growth. Of course, I cannot stay in an organization where like I started as the HR and I'm going to end as the HR. I gave an example. I joined in as a HR officer back in 2018 at Kentaste, grown in the organization, became a HR manager, grown again to the senior HR manager. And I'm hopeful that I'm going to get to the directorship role. Yeah. Retention is not a policy. It is how people experience work every single day. Do you feel motivated to go to work? Do you feel what does your mind tell you when you wake up in the morning, or even when you sleep? Are you like, yeah, tomorrow I'm going to work, yes, I'm really happy about this? Or are you like, geez, do I really have to go to work? Can I give a sick leave that's written somewhere from the, from the medical facilities that we usually pay 200 or 100 shillings? It's how we feel every day about our work, and that is retention, not the policy itself. And finally, listening. Let's not just listen, let us act on the feedback that we get. And yes, that's it. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Monica. That was a lot packed into this short 30, 40 minutes. I can see a lot of people giving you a lot of thumbs up. And yeah, I think for me, I mean, I was writing a few things I think that probably stood out for me, and I'll just probably just drop them here. I mean, the point you made around having an open culture in ways where direct reports are comfortable talking with their managers and, telling them, exploring the options around, like, I want to transition out of the company, and knowing fully well that there won't be any repercussion for that, because I think it's less of the conversation, but more of the aftermath that happens after those conversations. And I've had experiences with people where they say, well, I told my manager XYZ, and then the next thing, I was penalized for doing this, or for, I was just fired, right? So I think just building that culture, where that culture of openness and transparency, I think, is very important. Your point also around clarity around growth plans, where as an employee, I should have some sense of, if I deliver XYZ, then this is how I'm able to grow across the company over a period of time. Either this is also how my compensation also adjusts accordingly, right? I think that clarity is very important, right? And obviously your point around onboarding also, it's important. I must say that something that truly impressed me in your talk, and even in your previous conversation, is just how well you understand the business. And I say this where lots of, not even from an HR perspective, lots of people struggle to understand the business, right? Where people might understand their roles perfectly, but just understanding how every other part of the company works and how everything connects together to lead to revenue is very important. I think even for HR teams, even more so, because then you can empathize with people across the company. And I think your thought around being on the floor, understanding what happens on the floor, being on the motorcycles, understanding when somebody says, I want to change my motorcycle, what that actually means and why the person is doing that. In cases where, even if that doesn't happen, the fact that the person understands that you understand why, I think the thought there also counts. I think that's super important. I will kick us off with two questions. And I know there are a few questions in the chat box. If you also have questions, please just raise your hand. So just feel free to put them in the chat box. But two questions. One is, you've outlined a lot of strategies, which are there were almost 20 strategies. I'm curious, in your own experience, when you did your employee engagement surveys, what one or two, what were the strategies that had the most impact? I know you had 20. I suspect Pareto principle is somewhere in the 2080 row, where they're just one or two that drove the most, retention. So I'm curious, when you spoke to your people and within all your engagement surveys, what did you find that this is the one or two that make people say, you know what, I love it here, I want to stay? So that's my first question. And my second question is around buying. Now, some of the things you have mentioned require serious buy-in from management. You mentioned ESOP, right? A lot of tradition. Now, I know ESOP is a standardized thing for technology companies, right? It's part of our ethos as a company. For traditional companies, ESOP is not a conversation they want to have. So I'm curious as to how you were able to make the company or make the management buy into your idea. And more broadly, how do you get management buy-in for your initiatives where they're like, this makes sense, let's do it? So those are my two questions, and then we can jump into some of the questions in the chat box as we move along.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Very interesting. Let me start with the first one. So after our engagements, what we realized, one was the HR accessibility. It's everything. And the reason why I say this, so to a point now, the managers, the factory manager, the production manager will come and ask, what do you give people? Why do they feel comfortable to come to you? It's just one secret. Be out there. And HR people, you can all agree, we are called the office people and we are very idle. I think that's what they usually say. That's how they tag us. Make yourself useful. Go out there. No, if it's packaging, this is what packaging entails. Like, even joke around. Can I lift this one carton? How does it feel? It means that you are relating to that employee. It shows that you're trying to understand from the layman's language what they go through. So one, it's the HR accessibility, and the other one, it's time off, when like they finish their targets, going out, not just staying in the company just because the contract or the policy says I'm supposed to be in the organization for 8 hours. So those two, they were really important for us. And then the last one, let me give you three, was the so we introduced last year, we introduced the maternity package. So our women, when they are, and even the paternity package, although it's a little bit smaller, so we have maternity and paternity package. So maternity, we give them some amount, we buy some clothes, we buy them fruits, and then Pampers and whatnots. And then for the paternity, we usually give them some company products, and even some clothes for the baby. Really important for our employees. The lesson is about buy-in. I'm not going to stand here and pretend as if it's like a walk in the park. You have to have your data right. You have to have your data. Data means anything, everything and anything. If you present data, meaningful data, and you're able to interpret it, I'm going to tell you, if the CEO really knows what he wants to achieve and what the company needs to achieve, you are just going to have your buy-in. And then for the next thing is, don't expect an approval for everything. Always if you get a no, it's okay. Don't sit back and watch. A no means you can try something else. A no means you can push something else. What am I saying? HR people, we really need to be pushy, meaningfully pushy. Because what we are tagged as is people that are at the mid. We are there for our employees, but we're also there for our employers. Imagine you're told to no, and you're like, oh, that boss, I can never go back there. Then what is your work in the organization? It's like a child. You don't give everything they ask for. Sometimes you're going to say yes, sometimes you're going to say no. So it is for us to have, one, the data. Secondly, be persistent. Persist until the CFO listens to you, because CFOs, they really don't want to get the money out. So push until you get what you want. And don't even start with the very expensive things. Start with the low-hanging fruits, and you're going to get there slow by slowly. Yes.
All right. Thanks a lot, Monica. And thanks for the very thoughtful responses. We would jump into the chat now. There are a number of questions. But I see Doreen has her hands raised. So we'll take our question first, and then we'll jump into the questions in the chat. Doreen, please go ahead. If you're speaking, you're muted. I guess this is one of the most popular line in virtual meetings. If you're speaking, you're muted, or mute yourself. All right. Okay. I guess I'll just go ahead and take the questions in the chat box. I think there's a question around 3 hours per month. And I think this was referring to when you spoke about the emergency period people have to take time off work. And I believe the question here is, the 3 hours you're offering, is it per month? Yeah.
Yes, it is per month, yes.
Okay, I guess that answers.
But but let me just be clear, we started at per quarter. And then as time went by, we started improving. Now going per month. Maybe we are going to improve maybe per week, I don't know. But you need to start somewhere to get the information right because these are costs. These are costs to the organization. So get your data ready before you even start bargaining for 3 hours per week.
Gotcha. Doreen, I see you have your hands. Are you able to speak now?
Kayode, sorry, I was actually able to hear you, but I was a bit distracted because I'm still at work.
Okay.
So I think, thank you, Monica. The conversation has been short but very relatable and very nice, and quite a bit of learning there. So I think my question is around overtime. One of, I think, the main points I've been working with. So I believe you guys, not sure if you also do manufacturing, but I'm in a manufacturing plant, and you can hear some background noise as we speak. So sometimes maybe operations, we have to extend operations in a short notice. Yeah. Sometimes we have enough notice, like we can communicate and say tomorrow or Thursday or say another day, we are expecting to extend operations outside the normal working hours. And yes, maybe the company is willing to pay in cash, usually paid with a salary or in compensatory days. What happens in cases where an employee is not willing to do this extension or come in for an overtime, say, or on a Saturday, for example? Because for us, only half of the Saturday.
And by the Okay, thanks, and sorry for cutting you. Yes, during I'm in manufacturing, like I said, it's agro processing. So I have site where we do collection of raw materials. So that's another, I would say, line of the organization where like we have all these casual workers, we have the collectors, harvesters, whatnot. And then now there is the factory where I'm located, and that's where we do the magic. So yes, I can relate to what you're saying. There are people that don't want to be pushed to do overtime. And I think this comes back to just the employment law. You are told you cannot force someone to work, right?
Yeah.
You can. Yes, you cannot. And if someone gives you a good reason, let's say, for instance, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. I don't want to come on Saturdays. It's you to agree with the employees. But I have those people, I have them, those who go to church on Saturday. And what we've done is just to come to an agreement. Fine. If you're not coming on Saturday, what are you able to cover this day on Sunday? And if yes, what can you be doing? So what you can tell the production managers. So for instance, for us, we have coconuts that remain on the coconut shell. I don't know if you can relate. So the coconuts, but now there's some meat that's going to remain on that shell. This is part of the job that they usually do on Sundays. And there are times, because we have CCTVs, we even have a supervisor who doesn't come to work on Saturdays. So it's just you creating a system that will work for everyone. But most importantly, don't ever like push someone to come to work. Imagine if you are to push an employee and they just come and do whatever they do. You know what they do with the machines, and they should make very good cuts.
I think it was a one situation thing of 3 parties, and not specific, say, not any justifiable reasons, but basically, just around we don't want to come for the overtime. Of course, that also affects the operations. I just wanted to understand if there are any legal, stuff around it. But I think I understand the part that when it is reasonable, then yes, we are also, remember, creating trust with our staff and wanting them to know we care.
Yeah, sure. And maybe what I can do, maybe to further, maybe you can reach out. I'll just text my number there. You can reach out any day and we further discuss. Would that be fair?
Yeah, very fair. Thanks so much.
Terrible.
Thanks, Monica. I think the next question says, what's considered an appropriate or acceptable attrition rate, both overall and specifically within the manufacturing sector?
So based on the research right now, it's between 10 to around 17.5 in manufacturing.
Okay. And you currently sit at about 8. So I guess you're doing much.
Trying. We still have a lot to do, but yes.
I'm curious for you, Monica. Before you implemented some of those strategies that obviously drove this attrition rate down, what was your attrition rate? And if you could give me a time frame, maybe a year or 2 years ago, it was at this number, and now it's currently at this number, and maybe that helps us contextualize things as well.
So I joined in 2018 and took over the HR department around 2020. So I'll just give you information from 2020. And the first time we did measure attrition was in 2021. So at that time, it was really crazy because it was coming to around 21. But now we had other factors in as much as, so we had gone through some, what's the best word to use? A lot of changes, just because we were in different counties. At some point, we had to merge and have like one factory. There were a lot of changes that were affecting employees. And at some point, they felt this is too much. And yeah, so as much as it was a little bit high, it was high. Let me not sugarcoat it. It was 21% and it was high. Yes.
Okay, no, that's helpful. I mean, I think and driving it from 21% down to 8% is in about 2 years thereabout. I think
Yes.
that's definitely a great feat.
Yes.
There's a comment Eric has mentioned, but I think I'll convert that comment into a question, and he's talking obviously about regrettable attrition, right? And this is obviously you losing like very high performing or critical employees to your operation. Now, I'm curious, when you think about your retention strategy and you map it out, I know you've shared with us those very broad things you do, but do you categorize employees where like, these are like my star employees, my mid-level employees, and maybe just not on the star side, obviously I don't want to lose anybody there, so I'm going to do XYZ more to ensure that I keep them? Or is it just deploy the same strategy across board? How do you treat high performing employees? And I know HR people have lots of names people give those people, high performing employees, and the people that sit in the middle and those at the bottom. How do you think about it?
So one thing is, can you still hear me? You can still hear me? Okay, thank you. One thing is, I don't want to sit here and pretend, no, I don't cluster. At the back of my mind, I have that cluster. Yes, I know. This is one of my bests. This is one of my best. The mistake that I've not allowed myself to make is to start giving specific packages for these best people, because that's the start of my problems. What you can do, and that's what I said, I can't give a manager a t-shirt. Maybe a tour or a family tour to Tsavo National Park will make sense to this particular manager. If they're really performing, then this is something that I can consider. Or consider a variable pay based on specific KPIs. Or consider a bonus, a one-off bonus for a particular initiative that was developed and actualized. There are so many ways you can go about it without communicating that they are the best employees. Most of the time, when you communicate and show, and especially for people who don't have emotional intelligence, when you over communicate and over reward that they're the best employees, they are going to be your problem tomorrow. So just being smart about it.
Thanks. And I think there's one final question here. I think it's from Nixon. When engaging with employees, what issues can you talk about and which ones can't you? I don't know if that provides now. I suspect that there's some context missing from this question, but I don't know if that provides you something you can work with.
Yes. And so I usually guide, don't be the initiator of the conversation. Create a platform where they can initiate the conversations. Ask direct questions. How do you feel? Are you happy? Are you okay? How is work? Ask open-ended questions. And with these questions, then the conversations are going to come. Rather than you asking, is your salary enough? Who's going to say the salary is enough, honestly? If you go and start asking, what package do you need? Someone will start saying, I need a car tomorrow, yet even a house they don't have. Do you need, you see, like ask open-ended questions. How is your work? How is family? How do you feel? Is your wife okay? Is your family okay? Are your children okay? With that, then someone is going to start. Imagine my wife is sick, or my staff, or my, they're going to start sharing rather than you asking those questions. Don't know if it makes sense.
Definitely. No, I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Around just like keeping the questions very generic and allow the employee lead with the specific thing they're actually hoping to solve, right? Thank you a lot, Monica. This has been a very useful session. I'll just give 2 more minutes and see if there are any additional questions. Again, you can just signify by raising your hands, or you can just like pop into the chat and just like ask your questions. Any other questions? I think our team had one question for you, and I suspect this is because, so as part of the registrations, we've taken lots of questions and tried to synthesize the questions to just fit into one broad question. I suspect you've spoken about this slightly, but then I just go further. So if you were to pick one HR, so now I've learned all those things from Monica. I'm going into my company over the next 90 days. I'm like, let me just even reduce attrition by maybe 1 or 2%. What would be the one HR initiative you would say I should focus on over the next 90 days? And how should I measure success? So that's one question. Now I have a second question, and I suspect the audience in Nigeria will relate more to this, but I suspect you also see this in Kenya. So in Nigeria at the moment, there's a lot of challenges around like immigration, and there's even a term now coined for it, which is jackpot, which is people living in droves to the US, UK, Canada, right? And every other week, HR teams here are having to just like deal with that. And I know somebody specifically asked on the form to say, I would like to understand how this person has solved issues around people looking to leave the country, immigrate, and how they've built any form of retention plan around that. So those two questions, this question on the screen, and if you've had experience with just like some of your key employees immigrating, how have you solved for that, right? Yeah. And one final question for you, and this is for me now. I'm also curious as to how do you ensure you have a healthy pipeline? One of the things, I struggle with is just like, you have this, at times people just have to leave for several reasons, either family reasons, somebody's wife moves to a different country, they have to join their wife or their husband. Somebody wants to go do a PhD. There are things you cannot stop, but this person is a critical employee. How do you ensure that you always have a steady pipeline of people that can, take over that particular role? So I said one question, but I've asked 3 questions, right? So, yeah.
Okay, let me start with the last one. How to ensure a steady pipeline of people. So one, in Kenya, we have very good agencies, recruitment agencies. But even with that, I think the level of attrition that we usually experience is from the operators. So what we've done is to have an open gate where people drop their applications at the gates. And then I have my HR team now create a database. So it means that we don't lack any person at any given time. We have the database. Applications keep coming. And then we also relate with the institutions that are around us. For those in Kenya, you know about TVETs. These are institutions where they are able to take the not so performing staff, quote unquote, people who did not perform well in school, but they can do a course or two. So that interaction with the community is really important. Going out to the universities, we have universities around us, and getting them to more of support your initiatives. So immediately we have a position. The first point is to advertise internally. And we have social media, right? So they are going to also advertise accordingly. Then we have community WhatsApp groups. So we have Diani, where we currently are. We have a number of social media pages. We post there, and then we go to the universities and community centers. So that's how we manage our staff pipeline. And the next question was, if you don't mind.
The next question was around the immigration wave, right? And how you've just managed that, or if that's a problem you even see, and if it's one, how do you manage it?
So what we realized for us, but I love that word. I do a lot of Nigerian movies. Don't, someone should not mention that in future. I love them. I love that word. It's just that I don't know how to pronounce it, Japwa or something. For us, it doesn't affect me a lot, but it has affected one line of my team. So my good chunk of employees are male, so their wives have left for these other greener pastures, especially in Saudi Arabia and such like. So what I go through is not my employees going, it's their spouses leaving, which affects them directly because they are the ones who are left with the kids. They are now, quote unquote, the breadwinners until the wife now settles in the other country. So that's what I go through, and not the direct employees leaving. And with that, well, it's a lot. I have like 2 of my department support staff who have their spouses, they've left and they're with the kids. And you see, these are the people that now really need your keen eye on. They still want to work because let me tell you, these people are going to go to this other country and they're not going to commit to sending the money as they had promised. So the husband was very okay letting the wife leave, but honestly, in real sense, they won't be sending the money. So what that means is the burden has kind of increased, because now they have to ensure it's either they take the kids to a caregiver, or they just get another solution. They have a caregiver at home, or they start thinking of leaving work and whatnot. What I've done is, once they come to me, the first thing is, don't leave work, because now this is what you depend on. Let's map out a plan on how I'm going to support you. So maybe the kids, in the course, the families live with their parents. So we can't just come up with a plan. Leave the kids at home with the parents in the evening. I will ensure that I give you a favorable shift. You leave early, and that's how you support each other. It's more on a case per case basis, not like a general policy.
Thanks. And that's a plan. And the final question, the one on the screen, just like, so I'm thinking about this, and I say to you, Monica, I want to try reduce attrition by 1% over the next 90 days. What would you say I should focus on? And how do I measure progress across that particular initiative I'm driving?
So more of like, you're asking me to give guidance on what you can work on.
So pretty much. So I come meet you and say, Monica, just like you reduced attrition significantly over the last 2 years. You know what? Over the next 90 days, I just want to reduce attrition by 1 or 2%. What would you say is the best initiative? I suspect that depending on the type of company, the initiative might be different, but just like general guidance, what would you say I should focus on?
On-site HR presence. It's a very easy win. You are going to understand everything. And you see, if you understand, you can also relate and start talking that in the management or board table. It's a low-hanging fruit. You see, most of the time we just depend on our HRIS systems and the feedback that we get from the production workers, that, you know what, absenteeism is going high, absenteeism is going low. But have we gone to the production workers and try to understand? Fine, they are saying it's about just it's a discipline issue. Have you double checked? You going down to the floor and understanding, because maybe it's not even about that. It's about the chairs they are sitting on. It's about the chairs they're sitting on when they are producing. It's about the machines they are using that maybe it hurts their hands, or it has a certain effect on their hands. It's about the noise at the factory level. It's just goes into your head, like you can't work well the following day. That is a low-hanging fruit. And I think that's a very easy win. It has worked for me, just being down there at the floor. Let me even be honest, at some point, one of the production managers, that was in 2019, production manager left, and I had to handle production for 2 months until I got in another person. That's how funny HR can be. Like, ensure, don't just take it as a profession, take it more of like a life. It's a passion, it's a lifestyle. You are there to help people, you're there to support them, do it passionately. So that's my advice, maybe.
Thank you so much. I think we should definitely, appreciate Monica. If we were in a physical room, we would have given you a standing ovation. But I think in this virtual room, we can thumbs up, clap. But I think this has been a very, very useful session. I suspect lots of people will be taking out tips, insights, and implementing this at work. While you're speaking, our internal Slack channel.
Okay, I don't know. When you're done, I wanted to chip in something.
Okay, sure. Our internal Slack channel was buzzing, and people were just, reposting some of the comments you were making, and they were tagging certain people on the comments, right? So thanks for sharing the session, and it was great having you. For the general audience, I would say, I would take Blessing's comment, but just one last screen. The screen we're currently on is, as a team, we're offering a special offer to everybody on the call today, which is you're able to use Talstack for a 30-day period and get it for free, right? Also consult with our team. So we have this barcode which you can see on your screen. You can basically just scan the barcode, or you can type in the URL, which is the bit.ly URL and /30 days offer, to be able to get access to this. Again, those are two easy ways for you to reach out to us. And thank you for joining the webinar. And we look forward to having you in future webinars. We'll take Blessing's comment or question. I'm not sure which it is. And then we would call it a day. Blessing, please go ahead. If you're speaking, Blessing, you're muted. You're breaking off.
I just wanted to chip in. But then, can any other person hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay, you can hear me now. Okay, good. I apologize for joining a little bit late because I had issues with our webmail. So I actually like what she talks about in terms of HR being on site and observing, and then getting to wear different hats when the need be. However, with the current price hike in fuel, shouldn't HR be considering hybrid as well? Because this coming on site fully every day and the cost of fuel globally, and especially in Nigeria, I mean, shouldn't HR be cut some slack? HR can't just be everywhere every time and then spend more money and not get a raise. Madam Monica, what do you think? I'm advocating for fellow HRs.
I think I have the same sentiments. I wish we were in one country and we will just go and stand somewhere and just have placards saying HR needs to be appraised. But I think on this, so this is what I'm going to say about the issue. Yes, the fuel is affecting it. Actually, it's affecting everyone, not the HR professionals only. So let's be honest. We said we mirror what we go through and what others going through in our lives. So they're also experiencing, the production workers, everyone else is experiencing the same. But we don't have to wait for a crisis for us to go to the management and request for a raise. We don't have to wait for that. I think for me, it's HR, we usually fight for the rights of people. And I would say a good boss, supervisor that you report to should not always wait for you to raise an issue about salary. And this is the reason, because your impact is felt. So my part line, as much as I don't want to go directly into answering that, is ensure that your impact is felt and appreciated to a point you don't have to wait for a crisis for you to raise an alarm on review or a consideration on fuel. You can imagine so for us, we have, for those in Kenya, you can relate. I mean, Kwale, we have Kilifi, we have Lamu, we have staff in those regions, and we have Nairobi as well. Do I really have, if my boss knows, yes, I'm managing and I have a weekly or a monthly travel plan to Kilifi, that other side of the coast, do I really have to go to my boss and say, you know, this, I need, he's going to ask, by the, how are you commuting? Are you okay? How are you doing? It's that's what I want you to look for, Blessing.
Ah, I envy you, Monica. Okay, that's an ideal. I like that. But then, you know, when they were all talking about us going hybrid, like staff advocating for a hybrid arrangement this period, everybody said HR should just, you know, be on site and take maybe a day off. Nobody said that HR still deserves maybe 2 days off in a week, you know, 2 days to work remotely as well. You know, it's just, that's just where I'm coming from. But I totally understand what you're saying, ma'am. Thank you.
Welcome. And maybe just to add in, Blessing, I think we should all agree as HR, we will never be everyone's cup of tea. At some point, we'll have to quote unquote fight for our rights and speak out loud. In fact, what I've learned now in the past, even going to these forums and whatnot, be very clear about your package. You know what you can do at the onset of your recruitment. Have an entire list of how your package should look like and start creating now. You don't have to wait until the time that you are leaving the current organization. Start building yourself and writing somewhere, this is what I'm worth of, so that have you ever realized you always have this brain fog when you're going or where you are interviewing and you don't remember all these things? But imagine if you're writing them down somewhere. This is what I'm worth of. Salary this, transport allowance this, what's not this, you know you are worth. Start recording and documenting.
Thank you very much. I'm starting right away.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica. It was great having you. Thanks again for being gracious with your time and for sharing all the insights you shared with us. Lastly, is there, for those that would like to reach out to you, is it okay to just share your LinkedIn URL or where people can easily connect with you, so that they can connect with you and possibly explore conversations, maybe we share some movie recommendations with you. Now that we know you like Nollywood movies, we can But thanks everyone as well that joined the call. We're just going to share Monica's LinkedIn in the LinkedIn URL in the chat for those that would like to connect with her. And thanks everyone for joining. Our team would also be reaching out to people as you book some of the sessions, as you book sessions to speak to us, right? Thanks again, everyone, and let's enjoy the rest of our day. I just posted Monica's LinkedIn URL in the chat box as well. Thank you.